Skowhegan Island became an industrial center during the early 1800s because Kennebec River currents provided a rich, sustaining source of kinetic energy. During the late 1700s, early industrialists utilized a small natural channel flowing between Skowhegan Island and a smaller island to its west. They built a simple dam that forced water through the natural channel. The rushing water propelled huge water wheels connected to drive shafts and leather belt systems to operate manufacturing equipment such as saw blades, griststones, and carding machines for island mills and factories.
Levi Weston, born in 1824 and died in 1915, was an industrialist and community builder and was co-owner of the Weston and Brainerd sawmill. His grandfather, Joseph Weston, was one of Skowhegan's first settlers, and his father, William Weston, held the first deed granted for water power rights on the falls in 1806. The deed carried conditions to safeguard the flow of water and dam privileges for both the north and south channels. Levi Weston inherited and held the water and dam rights until 1897, when he sold to the Skowhegan Electric Company.
The first North Channel Dam, constructed of logs and lumber, was set among the natural rocky ledges. By directing the water flow toward the South Channel and the North Shore, the dam forced the current into a large flume under the Skowhegan pulp mill. The flume carried the strong current of water through the foundation levels of Dodge Street mills to turn multiple water wheels that powered mills to grind pulp and grain, saw lumber, and spin material for textiles. In the background, Elm Street is visible.
Skowhegan Falls before dam construction shows the natural drop in elevation and force of the currents. Elm Street is in the background. The Skowhegan Pulp Company, first established as the Carrabassett Pulp Company in 1888, was located on the north side of North Channel Falls. It and another pulp mill, both powered by water, manufactured enough pulp to fill 12 train cars every week. The view here is of looking down the North Shore Channel with Elm Street on the left of the piled logs. Skowhegan Falls Island viewed from the smaller island. Number 1, the North Channel Bridge. Number 2, Dodge Street Mills. And number 3, shoreline of Natural Channel. The dark rectangular openings at the foundation level of Dodge Street Mills are flume exit points. They provided a way for water to return to the Kennebec after turning water wheels in the North Shore Mills.
Central Maine Power Company, also known as CMP, organized in 1908 and took over the water power and dam rights in 1910. They began construction of the concrete Weston Dam and power station on the South Channel in 1919. By 1921, CMP completed the North Channel Dam, raising the water level 4 feet to fully utilize the flow of the Kennebec. The smaller island west of Skowhegan Island was leveled below the water line, thus eliminating the natural channel. Once electrical power was developed, mills and factories no longer needed to be near flowing water or connected to a flume system to access an energy source. Today, Skowhegan's hydroelectric dam uses the same kinetic energy to turn the powerhouse generators to produce electricity for Skowhegan area homes, industries, and businesses. The Skowhegan Lumber Company mill, located west of the Savage Ice House, was built in 1906 by John Stewart and Robert W. Lord. The mill sawed logs from the river boom from 1907 until 1913. For a period of time, it was run only in the winter. The sawmill and lumber yard of Harry W. Fall and Sons took the place of the steam mill. Today, Hammond Lumber Company occupies the site of these former mills. Samuel Philbrick purchased Colonel John G. Neal's Riverfront Pottery Works in 1810 for $180. He and his brother Joseph manufactured a wide variety of farm and household items from clay found on the shelving bank of the river. Samuel gave up the pottery trade in 1825 and sold his half-acre lot to blacksmith Aaron Spear in 1839 for $250. Mr. Spear built a brick house, which he later sold in 1845 to James H.K. Lord, also a blacksmith, for $1,200. Nearly 100 years later, Louise Helen Coburn bought the half-acre property. She restored the house, added a museum wing, and established the History House Museum in 1937. Long before the eyes of any white man had rested upon Skowhegan Falls in the Kennebec, the place was familiar to the Abnaki Indians. Their canoes ran between shores that are now part of our town, and their feet trod the trail across the Skowhegan Island. They speared for salmon at the falls and raised corn. Louise Helen Coburn, Skowhegan on the Kennebec.
The early Western and Brainerd sawmill employed more than 70 men to cut, drive, and saw logs. It relied on energy generated by water power to run its sawmill operation. Moore's Ferry. Revolutionary War soldier Benjamin Moore was granted a 500-acre parcel of land that included the riverfront property where History House is located. He built a home, cleared his land, and later sold his property to Colonel John G. Neal, who established an early pottery works on the river property. Moore was the first keeper of the Elm Street Ferry, carrying people, goods, and livestock across the Kennebec River from what are now Elm to Alder Streets. Starting in 1803, his ferry provided the only way to cross the river or access the island during open water seasons. Moore's ferry service ended after the first wooden bridges were built across the island in 1809. Native son Brooks D. Savage founded Skowhegan's first commercial ice harvesting company following his return from the Civil War in 1864. His 4 or 5-man crews used one-man single saw blades, 4 to 5 feet in length, 6 inches wide, with big teeth and a wooden handle, to cut 22-inch by 44-inch ice cakes from the frozen river. Horse-drawn sleds hauled the blocks, known as Kennebec Nuggets, to his large ice house built on the south side of the river. Sawdust, purchased from local sawmills, was shoveled into the Savage ice house to cover its earthen floors and serve as insulation for stored ice cakes. The horse-drawn wagon on Island Avenue carried blocks of ice throughout the local area, delivering to homes, stores, and markets. The iceman chiseled off a large chunk of ice with a pick and, using ice tongs, carried it to the customer's ice box. Children often ran after the ice wagon to get a hunk of ice on a hot summer's day. Bateau is a French word for a heavy, flat-bottomed, shallow draft boat with flared sides and pointed ends. Ranging in length from 12 to 84 feet, they had a simple design, were easy to build, maintain, and repair, but required constant oakum caulking to keep watertight. Bateaus were used extensively across North America, especially in the colonial period, because they could navigate shallow, rocky rivers. Skowhegan witnessed two historic uses of River Bateau. First, as the workhorse of the military during the American Revolution. Colonel Benedict Arnold used 200 Maine-built bateaux to carry 1,100 troops and supplies up the Kennebec River on his failed quest to capture Quebec. Volunteer soldiers paddled, pulled, pushed, and portaged their bateaux with great difficulty. They scaled Skowhegan Falls in September 1775. Weary, wet, and discouraged, the troops camped on the island and on the shore opposite the History House. The next morning, they continued on their bateau journey, traveling upriver toward Norridgewock. Beginning in the 19th century, Maine's rivers were used to move vast amounts of lumber south from the North Woods through downriver towns like Skowhegan. Bateau provided a stable platforms so the river drivers could sort and divert logs. They carried men and logging gear, and they ferried men out to break up log jams, a common occurrence during log drives. By this time, bateaus were meant for this job only, and when that job disappeared in 1976, the river bateau also disappeared.